A job my coworker did at the theater. As I walked into the shop, it was 8:05 a.m. Smiling as if it was an improvement on yesterday's 8:20 a.m. I punched in and said hi to the heating boys and walked over to our new shop in the yard. As I exited the main shop to head to the plumbing shop, I could hear a high-pitched cawing followed by a low-pitched growling. I looked up to see Turd hanging by his fingertips from the sign, about 12 feet off the ground, on the new shop staring daggers at a pigeon. He was desperately swinging a box cutter in his free hand at it. As I walked inside, the boys were sitting in their usual spots waiting for Bob to give them the day's work. The shop's roster was for the better part lacking these days. Dennis, Bob, Daryl, and Izzy were the only ones around after Trent, and they left. "Morning, boys. Sign looks good on the shop. They must have finished after I left last night," I said with a smile on my face. "Oh fuck yeah, buddy," said Dennis in a thick Albertan accent. At that moment, a loud thud and cracking was heard outside. After that, Lou was heard yelling about a broken windshield and how, Lewis Jr. III, "You are the most worthless piece of seed that ever came out of my balls," or something similar. Bob chimed in and grabbed everyone's attention. "Izzy, you and Daryl are heading back to the tub you were installing yesterday, and Dennis, take Joe with you to M Canyon Cinema. The sewer is plugged up there." "Fucking rights, buddy," Dennis said to me. Dennis and I rarely work together these days as I'm almost done with my apprenticeship and we cost too much to send together. I figured Bob knew Old Man Canyon could afford it though. "Buddy, it's been so long. How's it feel in the big time?" Dennis asked. "Oh, you know, it's been stressful. I miss the days I didn't have responsibility," I said, reminiscing on my days working with Dennis. "We'll do this job like old times, eh?" Dennis said cheerfully. We hopped in the van and began to drive towards the theater. It was one of the oldest buildings in town. The only ones older were the city hall and the army base. Guess you need entertainment after the government and war are taken care of. It was rumored Mr. Canyon owned the building since or shortly after it was built. That seemed strange as he looked to be about 35. "Hey Dennis, you think it's true that Old Man Canyon has owned the building since 1935? I asked playfully. "Well, Buddy's been there since I started at Iceberg," Dennis replied. "Really? You sure that wasn't his dad or something?" "That was 20 years ago," I said. Dennis let the statement hang in the air for a minute before he began to speak again. "I ever told you about the first job I did at the movies?" Dennis asked seriously, puzzled as I'd only ever seen him serious twice before. Once he asked me for a place to stay when his girlfriend found out about his other girlfriend. And again when I slammed his hand in the hood of the van when we were done checking the engine. It was a "I'm not mad, I just want to punch you in the face" statement. "No, you haven't. Are you good, buddy?" I asked concerned. Yeah, don't worry. Just a fucked up one is all." The old man asked us not to say anything about it to the cops, and seeing as you're not a cop and it was 20 years ago, it don't matter. "Well, don't tease me. Get on with it." Dennis' point of view. Fucking Iceberg Refrigeration was a joke of a company. You'd think by their advertisements and vans that all we did was fix your air conditioning. But no, one of the brain-dead bosses had a bright idea to expand into plumbing and heating. They had no fucking clue how to run a plumbing company. That's why I'm driving to the theater at midnight to unblock the drain. As I arrived, you could smell it. The putrid odor of about 1,000 guests' piss and shit. The journeyman I worked under would have said, "Smells like money," at that moment. After I shook that dumb thought out of my head, I grabbed my auger, a big metal contraption that has a metal cable about 100 feet long inside of a drum. I walked through the door, and it is a dead theater. I'd never seen it without the bustle of guests packed like sardines in the lobby. I looked up at the marquees to see what was playing that night. When You Wish Upon a Star was the first of the 3 movies. It looked like a family flick. It wasn't a good enough movie to bring a chick that you wanted to bang to. Next up was Rabbit Season, It was a horror flick about a hunter who was also a serial killer. I saw it a few days ago. I got late after it. The last movie was in the theater directly beside the bathroom I was there to fix. It was called Breakfast on a Wednesday. It wasn't marketed as a horror movie, but more of a drama/psychological thriller. It was the most horrifying movie I'd ever seen. It made sense why the toilets were blocked outside of that theater. Goddamn movie would make you shit yourself. I dragged my auger across the lobby towards the bathroom. There was water on the carpeted floor of the theater hallway. At this point, I realized I hadn't talked to any staff, let alone seen any as I walked in. I felt drawn towards the problem. As I'm dragging my machine towards the washrooms down the dimly lit hallway, I hear a soft voice say something behind me. "Are you the plumber? Dot?" I wheeled around in fright because whoever that was just scared the shit out of me. To my surprise, it wasn't a staff member. It was a large man looking no older than 40, about 6 feet tall with unkempt facial hair. He was in a drab, oversized concert tee and shorts. I thought it was a bit odd that he was wearing shorts in the winter. "You work here?" I asked. "I own here, son," he said, laughing. "Your old man Canyon's son?" I said. I don't know how that name ever stuck. "No, son, I'm the M. Canyon, the one you see atop the marquees outside," Mr. Canyon said. "So what's the problem then?" I said, trying to hide my disbelief. "Shitter's blocked," he said with amusement. "Well, then I'll get to work," I said, slightly annoyed as I knew that's why I was there. "Come find me when you're done, young fella. Let me know what it is you find," he said as he disappeared into the lobby. "Like fuck, I'm gonna find you when I'm done, buddy," I muttered under my breath. I proceeded towards the washroom with my auger in tow. I got in there, and there was a brass-colored grate in the middle of the washroom that had a brown, foul-smelling liquid pooling above and around it. I noticed there was a clean-out poured on the floor as I walked in. I opened it, and sure as shit, the waste started pouring up from that as I took the cap off. I set up my auger with the spring head on the end of the cable. Usually, I don't use it, but when Mr. Canyon said to let him know what I find, I had a funny feeling some patron decided not to shit in the toilet, but instead use it as a garbage disposal. I started to run my machine, and about 20 feet into the drain, I hit something hard. Now, usually you can run it, and it will bind up and have some resistance, but it will break up the blockage in about a minute or so. I augered on the hard spot for almost half an hour before I pulled it back. "What the fuck?" I said as I was pulling the cable out and cleaning it. It was then that I saw what I was caught on. I started to retch. I've seen shit. Literal shit. I've smelled foul odors. But a baby's hand is where I draw the line. It was half the size of my palm. It was missing its index finger and pinky. It didn't look like it was torn, but cleanly sliced at the wrist. The blockage by this time was gone, and the water started to drain. I left my tools on the floor and the hand on the auger. I ran towards the lobby. I started desperately shouting, "Mr. Canyon, I need you to come see this." "Oh, ageless man, where are you?" I heard soft footsteps come up from behind me, from where I was just working. Yes. I jumped in fright and turned around, and there was Mr. Canyon. "Fuck, you scared me again," I said. "Did you find the problem?" he asked in a low, questioning tone. "Yes, it's," I trailed off. "Come on, boy, spit it out," he stated. "Follow me." He followed me back to the bathroom. When he saw the hand on the end of my snake, his reaction wasn't. It was normal. "Don't worry, my boy. It's just a prosthetic," he said calmly. It was very clearly not a prosthetic. I was on guard, feeling as if something wasn't right. "I'll dispose of this, and don't mention this little incident to anyone, especially the police." "I will know if you do," he said as if he'd known it was real and wanted me gone as soon as possible. "Right?" I said. I packed up and left, with Mr. Canyon wheeling in a cleaning cart. He waved to me as I left. I'd never been back there since. Joe's point of view. "So that's it? You pulled a hand out of the drain about 20 years ago and never told anyone?" I said. "Yeah, buddy, of course. I told the bosses and I was promptly laid off the next week for mental health reasons. They never brought me back. So I left town 2 years ago. Something drew me back to this place, Dennis said. Why the hell would you come back? I get you had a feeling something was pulling you here, but man, I don't know. Fucking shit scared the life out of me. Everyone I've told since hasn't believed me, or if they did, they were crazier than me, he said dejectedly. I mean, I believe you, I said. You're fucking crazy then, Dennis said. Haha. Drains blocked again? You figure it's the other hand? I said jokingly. Maybe. Lightning doesn't strike twice, does it? He said laughing. It was the other hand.